I do want to start off with a couple things and then I'll jump into my presentation. This is something that I just want to talk about that I forgot to mention. And I may bring this back up when I have Jim, can't think Jim's last name right offhand, but he's a financial planner and you guys brought in financial people and he oversaw all the SE economics, financial literacy and all of that. But what happens is, let's give you the scenario here, and I just want to see real quick, if you don't plan ahead in retirement, it could cost you. And this is the whole point that I'm going to talk about all day today, about planning ahead. So we got Jumping Jack, okay? He actually graduated from college, and for the first 10 years, he put $3,600 in his 401k, okay? Then we have Procrastinating Jill. She said, I'll just wait until I get enough money or start making more money. And she waited 10 years and then she started putting in 3,600 every year. Okay. These are just scenarios. We had Dependable Brian, who started the year he graduated, put it in every year until he retired. Dumb Dave didn't do anything. He didn't put any money in, just spent his money every paycheck. And then Safe Sarah, she put in 3,600 every time, but not in a 401k. She just put it in a savings account. Okay. So after 30 years, okay, even though they're 22, and then you put in 30 years, 40 years, whenever you want to retire, who's going to come up with a better savings? Okay. And I'll just show you real quick down at the bottom. Here's all their money. They kept putting it in, kept putting it in. So overall, you'll see that Jumping Jack only invested 36,000. Okay, so you did the first 10 years. Procrastinating Jill did 118,000, and she waited. Dependable Brian did 154,000, and Safe Sarah did 154,000. The question is, who has the most money when they retire? Dependable Brian. I heard of Dependable Brian. Anyone else?
Oh, no, Safe Sarah. Because if you could be like a friend or something like that,
She put it in savings account. He put it in a 401. Okay.
oh, definitely. Oh, well, 401k.
Okay. Who would be third? Jill? Okay, so let's look at it real quick. So what happens is there's what's called compound interest. The sooner you put money in, it starts gaining interest. The longer you have it in, the more interest you gain. Okay, so if it's instead of 30 years, it could be 40 years. So if you waited 10 years, you've already lost 10 years of interest. So let's say here's the answer. And I'm going to go down to the bottom and you'll see that Jumping Jack, okay, actually came up with 661,077 cents. More than Procrastinating Jill. And he only put it in for 10 years, she put it in for 30 years. Okay, because he put it in early due to compound interest and an 8% gain. 8% gain is what happens in 401ks. It's the average. Some years you'll have 20%, sometimes you'll have -5, but overall it's an average 8% gain. So what happened was he came out ahead because he put some money away in the beginning. Now, Dependable Brian, like you all said, he did the best because he's over $1 million and he kept putting away just that little chunk until he retired, and he's over $1 million. Dumb Dave, he spent it all, which he had zero. The Safe Sarah, who matched the same amount, she only put it in a savings account. And how much do savings accounts, checking accounts get right? They get like a penny. Yeah, that's about it. They get a penny each month. And so she didn't make that much more money. Okay. So that's the kind of thing that you have to look at. But you'll see up here at the top, you're making 8%, 8%, 8%, 8%. say Sarah put hers in a 1%. So if you don't put it in the right place at the right time, that's what happened. Now, if, what I'm gonna talk about here in a little bit, you need to manage your money. You could be higher than 8%, you could be 12%, 15%, 20%. And so like, I would, you know, Solomon said, should we have a financial planner? Financial planners usually get you an additional 5%. So what happens is it's good to have a financial planner, but if you're on top of your game and watching it, you can do the same thing. So but financial planners also charge you. So you have to take that offset, but those are the different things that's going on. So I just wanted to point that out to you real quick. So let's talk about tax brackets real quick. And I wrote them up here, but I found an electronic version here. So what happens is when you're getting ready to put money in a 401k, you have to know your tax bracket. And right now, those who are impoverished, anyone that makes 11,600 or less, they're only taxed 10%, but they're still taxed even if you make $1. You started a job, say at 12, 15, 16, they're going to still tax you. Some people fall into here, especially retirees, maybe. Anyone over 11,000 to 47,000, you're taxed at 12%. Most of the middle America, that's what they call middle America, is at 22% or 24%. So it's anyone from 47,000 to 100,000, you're being taxed at 22%, or 24% at 100,000 to 191,000. So why am I asking? Okay. Well, when you start out, you're going to make a certain amount of money. You'll all be over 100,000 at some point in time. But say if you started off right here and you were at, say, $55,000, okay? If you're at $55,000, if you take pre-tax deduction, this is your gross, okay? Let's say, where's my pen? Say if you had 55,000 gross, that's your average salary. But what's your net? That's your take home, okay? So after deductions and all, if you put money into a 401k and so forth, then you're not spending it, you're saving it. And so they will give you a net amount instead of a gross amount. So instead of them taxing you at 55,000, you say you put, you know, what is the amount? 55,000 minus 47 be, say, $7,000 or $8,000. You subtract 8,000 from that, what is 8,000 minus that real quick? What is that? 40? Is it 47? Okay. So what happens? That's right. So 47,000 right here would be your net. And so instead of them taxing you at 22%, all of a sudden they're going to tax you at 12% because you put money away. And that way you just save 10% by doing that, okay? And that's how people start to play the game of, okay, what's your tax bracket? How much do I need to put away? How do I offset that? And that's considered pre-tax, okay? So anytime you can pre-tax a 401k, then you're doing that. And I just saved you 10%, because if you just left it alone, they're going to tax you 22% come April. You see what I'm saying?
Is that what 401k one?
So, well, when you say any 401k, and I'll get to that in a second, it's any 401k the way you worded it, yeah. But what happens is a Roth is post-tax. And so what happens is these are pre-tax. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is Roth post-tax. And we'll get to that here in a second, okay? But what I want you to be aware of when we start to move money, you're saving money because that's what they would have taxed you at come tax time. Like, okay, how much do I owe or how much do I pay? It's just something that you have to think about. It's not about those other things. Okay, so let me jump into the presentation. Here we go. And I'm going to start off first with life insurance because that's important too. So once you land your job, Okay. You're gonna go to the HR, they're gonna ask you a lot of questions, okay? And that's why I'm sort of laying this all out. Cause you're all excited, they're giving you 55,000, they're giving you 60,000, whatever. First thing they're gonna say, do you want a 401k? Yes. And then you say, how much are they matching? If they're matching 3%, then you put in 3%, so that means you're getting 6%. You know what I'm saying? So if they say, hey, we're matching up to 6%, then put in 6%. Don't walk away and say, no, I don't want to put in 6%. They're giving you 6% free, so that way you're putting in 12% a year. Same thing. So find out that first. Then they're going to ask, do you want life insurance? Do you want health, dental, vision? All these different things they're going to ask you. All of those are deductions. And so once they start deducting it, you do that. The reason I'm bringing up life insurance, at your age, it's so cheap. It's like $5 a month, like nothing. Same with vision. You guys aren't going to go blind very soon, but that's like $5 a month. Go ahead and take that. But what happens is, if you die in a car accident or something, the cost of a burial is usually $10,000 to $20,000, and so we got 10 to 20,000. Okay. And that depends if you want to be cremated or buried. Okay. So then you got to pay for a casket. Okay. That'd be including a casket. You got to plot the ground that you got to buy. You got to buy the tombstone, all these different things, and maybe obituary, all that stuff. And then what happens is, then you go to probate court and all your debts have to be settled. So whoever you put in your will to handle all of this, which is probably your parents at this point in time, if you die at this age, they have to take care of all this. Okay? Go ahead.
So, I thought that, debts can't be transferred to people that didn't incur the debts after that.
No, no, you
If
have to
you
pay for
receive
the
the
debt.
assets, then you get.
Right.
that. But if you don't receive assets, then you don't get.
So what happens is, say you owe student loans, you owe a car payment, you owe a house payment, anything like that. What I would do is say, what puts them in a pickle is, if you own a house, then they're gonna have to sell it immediately or start paying that house payment. Okay? So by having some money, they could set it aside, because your life insurance policy could only be a $50,000 one. And that's what I'm trying to calculate here. Is like, okay, what is your debt? What is your house? What is your, and you can figure out, okay, at least we can get my parents to the first quarter, and you cover enough to get them past that first quarter to pay that till it's all settled and sold, whatever they got to do. So what I'm saying is, if it's 20,000 here and your debts are, say, 50,000, okay, and in college debt or car payments or whatever, then take out a $70,000 loan. Like I said, it may cost you $5 a month. But that way it's not having to come out of their pocket when they're grieving and they got to say, I don't have that money. I don't know what to do. The reason I say that, it happened to my wife. And my wife, actually, her dad died. He had MS. They didn't plan ahead. And I don't know why they didn't plan ahead. But all of a sudden, we had to find a church that would do it for free. We had to ask the church to give us a plot. We didn't put a headstone there because we hadn't paid for it. So all of a sudden, they buried him, did the service, and we're like, wow, it's like just an empty grave. You know what I'm saying? Until you can afford it, and it's coming out of your pocket to pay for it. So if you had insurance, you could cover that. Just figure that out, okay? So that's just it. Now, what I have up on there, you can buy permanent or term. The cheapest is term, okay? And term means you're just paying year to year. Like, I bet I don't die this year, but I'll put $100 on it. And if you do die, then they pay you 50,000 or whatever, okay? Because like I said, it's only like $5 a month. But if you do permanent life, it may cost you $150 instead of 100 for the same $50,000, but 25 of that will go towards an interest-bearing account. So it will start accruing, sort of like what I just talked about, in a different interest bearing account for you. So that's the difference between permanent, what they call whole life, permanent life, all these different things. One is interest bearing and one is just betting the odds. It's just term life insurance. Go ahead.
Like, they know their life.
When you say a loan, it's how much they've put in, like in whole life. Like I can do that right now. When I was your age, I started this and I did a whole life. I've paid enough in that I have enough to cover my 50,000. And so I can take out, say, 75,000 because I've been paying in all this time. So I put in more than enough that I will get a kickback, or I can just take out the money. I can do that now, or it's just say it's a paid in full program. Because once you're beyond the 50,000, it's like it's just your money. So yeah, same kind of thing. Okay. So those are things that you want to think about it's like you're not thinking about it, but you do want to think about it. Now, Social Security supplements. Everyone says, Social Security's gone, Trump's in office, all these different things. But a supplement is a supplement. It's not something that you live off of. It helps you get over the hump. And since most people are in these brackets, lower to middle, that's why they created the Social Security supplement. 92% of people said that they depend on the retirement supplement. Okay. And so what happens is once you quit, no money's coming in, so we need a supplement. And so that's what they did. Some people depend on savings, like Safe Sarah did. Some depend on IRAs, some depend on pensions, okay? And some depend on a contribution plan, which would be like a 401k. So what happens is all these different things come into play, and you got to look at that. So let's go on down and talk about that. So Social Security supplements come into play for anyone my age, your age, anyone from 1960 over. You can't get that till really 62 if you draw early, but at 67 you'll get your full supplement and you'll move forward. The problem is right now they're saying, and I'm just throwing out raw numbers right now, but say at 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, and 67, this is a full amount. Okay. I'm just throwing out a number, but say this was 3,500 and here it was 3,000, maybe this was 2,500. Here's 2,000, and you got 1,500 and 1,000. So you can see what happens is if you take it out early, you're losing money and you wait. Now, what's happening is when they say they're going to get rid of Social Security, they're saying, well, we're going to take 25% of that away. So really, you're going to get now 750 and take away that 25%. So that's how they're offsetting it, okay? But they're not losing it, they're just reducing it. And so just be aware of that. But the longer you wait, which you're allowed to wait till you're actually 70, if you wait till 70, then you can actually go on up, okay, and make more money. But this is your full amount. You lose here, you gain there, okay, for all of us. Go ahead. Well, that's what they're proposing. It hasn't occurred yet. So when they say they're getting rid of Social Security, this is what they mean is they're reducing the amount, not getting rid of the amount, okay? No, well, it's on your salary, but how many credit service hours you put in. So you have to put in 40 years of service credit. So if you haven't put in 40 years and say you were a housewife or you had stay-at-home dad or something like that, if you don't have your 40 years, then you don't get Social Security, but you're allowed to take half of your spouses if they do have it. Okay, so what happens is then you're having to depend on your spouse's 40 years.
There are. I did say that I was not 40 years, but then I was making like, say that 32% tax bracket. Or I continued working and I was still making that 32% tax bracket. I don't get social security now, right?
No, you still get social security, cause you, as long as you paid in your 40 years, it doesn't matter, you still get it. Okay, so what happens is these are supplements, it just, and you gotta realize these are monthly amounts. So it's not a lot to live off of, if you take it out here, you're getting 12,000 a year as a supplement. That's it. And whatever else you put in 401k, cause you quit working. Down here at 3,000 times 12, think about that, that's not a lot of money either, that's a supplement of what, 36,000? So that supplement added to your 401k amount is what that supplement would be. And I'll show you some samples here in a second, okay?
25% again?
That's what they're proposing to reduce it. Now, why are they trying to eliminate or reduce the social security? What happened was back in the day, and I'll just, I'm getting there, but let me do this. Back in the day, when we had World War II, there was a baby boomer thing. And so all these people were born during World War II, but now they're all starting to die. And so what happens is there's not as many workers putting money into the system. So since it went down, we don't have enough people to pay into it. So we're losing money, but we're also taking out money. And so what happens is they're saying, well, just to keep it around, we need to reduce that amount. So that's what they're trying to do. Okay. So let's see here. But if you go to Social Security at some point in time, and you don't have to do this yet, I haven't even done it yet. But what they'll do is they'll actually sit down and tell you where your break-even points are. If you should take it at 62 or 67 or 70, and you can see where your break-even points are. It says 62, 66, 70, but it should say 67. But you can see where you're saying, okay, I'm making enough money. So just as an example for you guys, okay, say you're making 90,000, okay? After 40 years of work, these are the numbers that you could, actually make. So I was coming up with fictitious numbers here, but at 62, you'd be making about 2,000 and then it goes up. But see how those numbers are? That's a real Social Security. I went to their website, okay, and typed in 90,000. So the higher you make, then the higher the number goes, okay? So if you're putting in a lot of money for 40 years, this number may not be 1,000, it may be closer to 2,000, but then it continues to go up and about 3,500, okay? No, they deduct it. Your HR department does that. So let's talk about retirement then. So we're trying to determine what we do. First, we'll talk about government, then we'll talk about 401k and so forth. Right now, in the state of South Carolina, there's a grandfather clause, which Nikki Haley put into place, that if you work for 28 years in the state, you can retire and they will pay you a paycheck the rest of your life until you die. So if you started working at 21, you could retire at 49, okay? But Nikki Haley said, wow, people retiring at 49 and I got to pay them the rest of their life until they die. So she changed the rule and she said, I'm going to get rid of the grandfather clause and put in what's called Rule of 90. The Rule of 90, if you work for the state of South Carolina, it says they'll take the number of years you work for the state plus your age, and that has to equal 90 to retire. So if you started work at 22 years old and you worked till you were 56, so that's 34 years of work, 34 plus 56 would be 90. So instead of you retiring at 49 now, she's pushing you to 56. See what I'm saying? So she's getting more years out of you. You're still young, but that's called the Rule of 90. Okay. So if you work in our state or any other state, things are starting to happen like that. They're trying to change it. Instead, a lot of them were 28 years, 30 years, and they say, okay, you can quit, but now they're changing a little bit. Now, down at the bottom, it says, how do you calculate your pension? Well, pension, once you get paid from the state, if it was 28, you take 1.82% of your highest 3 years, and then that's the amount of money you'll get paid the rest of your life. So it would be close to, say, for 28 years under the grandfather clause of 90,000, it'd be about 45,800. If you add that to the supplement, okay, 40, what is it, 45.8? Okay, so all of a sudden, you would have, I'm just estimating here, 11, 7, about 81,000 a year in retirement. Because this is how much you're getting from the pension, this is how much you're getting from the supplement, okay? So that's what you have to figure out, what happened. Under the rule of 90, you would be getting paid more, but you put in more years. So let's talk about the value of compound interest by doing 401k. So how does that work? If they are doing a 3% match, say on 50,000, then really you're taking 3% of yours plus the 50%, and your employer contribution, what you would be paying is $750. Okay. And then you would break that up over the year or whatever, paycheck to paycheck, whatever you want to do. So what we're trying to do is determine how do we compound this, and there's different rules. I'm just throwing things out here, but there's the rule 72. You can multiply 72 by your annual interest rate of what you're making, whether you're making 8%, which I said that's pretty much it. You could actually do that, and it says within 9 years, it would double your value, okay? So we were trying to figure it out with Dumb Dave and all them. It would take so many years to do. So that's one way, but you want to figure out, okay, how much do I need to put in to double? Another one would be, hang on a second, by age. Like, okay, by age 30, you should have 1 times your salary. By age 40, it's 3 times your salary. Age 50, 5 times your salary. And age 60, 7 times your salary. So there's all kinds of different rules that you could actually apply a 401k. So if you go to corporate America, they're just saying to keep up with what you need to have for retirement purposes. If you're making 50,000 now, by age 30, you should have 50,000 already in your retirement account. If you're making 100,000, you should have 100,000 in by 30. But then you need to have 300,000 by age 40 and so forth. But they were estimating close to $1 million in your 401k. So there's a traditional and a Roth contribution, and that's what we were talking about. Right now, 401ks are pre-tax. A Roth is post-tax, okay? And so what that means is you're saying, well, I'm not trying to lower my net gain to a tax bracket. Say I'm already up here around, I'm just throwing, say $80,000, and you're not going to put away 30, 40,000 a year to get to a lower tax bracket. So you would just say, okay, I'm at 80,000. I'm going to put all of my money in a Roth and pay post-tax. What does that mean? Well, post-tax means you're paying all your taxes at this age at 22%, and you think in 40 years from now, I anticipate all of these numbers to be higher. Okay, so like right now in Europe, Canada, all these different countries, they're covering all of the health insurance, they're covering all the college and costs, all these different things. Their rates over in Europe are maybe like 42%, 44%. So, and that's following European models. Right now, Americans don't pay that much, but we also don't have free health care, free college. So if you pay a Roth, you're saying, I've already paid it. I don't have to pay it again. Okay, but if you do 401k pre-tax, you got to keep it in there until 59.5. And once you take it out at 59.5, they're going to tax you at the current tax rate of whatever it is. And you can't control that because you put it in pre-tax and not post-tax.
They take it as like tax bracket income for whatever tax bracket you want.
Correct. Well, what they try to do if you can actually say, that year you stopped working, you're not bringing in any money, but you got your social security, if you didn't claim it, whatever, all of a sudden, you gotta have money coming in. Whatever money's coming in, you might be able to say, this is all the money that's coming in at 12%. But all of a sudden, if you start taking away your gains from 401k or from your supplements or all these different things, once you pull it to actually live off of it, then that's what they're gonna tax you. Okay, so you're gonna have to keep an eye on it, and that's hard to do when you got $1 million in your 401k. They're saying take out only 4%, which is 40,000. So 40,000 instead of this 45.8, you'll see that 40,000 from $1 million 401k, you're actually making less than someone in a pension, because now you're only making 76,000. See what I'm saying? So when people say a government job is better than a 401k or corporate, you can see that I'll be making, say, 81,000 versus your 76, because I went government instead. Okay, go ahead. You pay it up front. So Roth, same thing, a Roth IRA is up front. Now, there's guidelines in which I'm going to go over. Hang on a second. We're getting to that too. So there's different things. So we have 401k, we have 403b, we have 457, and we have an IRA. Okay, this is regular, which is pre-tax, and we have Roth. Okay, so all of these, we have a Roth 401, we have a 403, 457, and IRA. So these are duplicated, but you have to tell them, do you want it pre-tax or post-tax? Now, the difference is, what is a 401k? Think of all the different things when we create a URL. A URL, this 401ks would be a .com, okay? 403bs would be a .gov, and 457 would be a .net, okay? And this is a personal one, okay? This is just yours. I'm putting this in your language, okay? So a 401k can only happen in corporate America. It's a .com. A 403b is for any state, federal government. It's the same thing as a 401k, but you're working for state. So I still have a 403b, even though I have a pension as well. So I'm contributing on a sidebar, a 403b as well. A 457, what I would say a .net would be, is like any nonprofit, philanthropy, people that you're still working for a company, but it's not government and it's not corporate, the nonprofit. A church, okay, any of these. So a 457 would be like a church, so forth, okay? And then you can also, if you're an entrepreneur, you don't work for a church, you don't work for a government, don't work for a corporate. The only way you can do it if you own your own is open an IRA. And that's entrepreneur. Okay, that's personal. So, and that's an entrepreneur. Now, does that sort of make better sense now that I'm laying it out? Go ahead.
IRAs recommended by don't like.
Oh, well, yeah, you can. What happens is I've opened that IRA for me, because it's mine, but, what happens is when you, like Solomon said, if one day you're gonna make 200,000, you may want to slide $7,000 into it to get you to a lower tax bracket. So if you were at 200, say 198,000, I put 7,000 in, it would lower me. See what I'm saying? So you can do that. The reason for this, there's a max. You can only put 23.5 in each of these, okay? Depending on where you work, that's the max you can put in per year. Down here, it's only $700. So all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm making so much money, I can't take any more money out to get to a lower tax bracket. And you just get hit with capital gains, and I hit 32%.
So we can pay into the Roth IRA that it's considered already taxed, so then that doesn't count as income. It doesn't get taxed, like we change our total income on that whenever we put money into Roth IRA.
No, you're still gonna get taxed based on that, that's the gross versus net. I'm trying to say, if you're trying to get to a lower one, you're trying to get to the net. So if you do it as a post-tax, you're still paying a higher amount because you're paying up front. So you're not reducing it.
To get the lower amount, you do the pre-tax and hope the
Correct.
bracket still increase.
Correct. And you watch the bracket. So yeah, the only way to get it lower is to pre-tax it. Okay, correct. So let me make sure I'm saying everything correctly here. Yep. And so here's what I was just saying. And maybe I did this backwards. Hang on, before I. Oops. I think I did do it backwards. I think this is the government, sorry. And this is the net. Am I right? Look at that. Yeah. My bad. Okay. Sorry about that. So 403B is nonprofits. Okay, and the 457 is the government. My bad. Okay. And it says, how much can you contribute? Okay. Well, in 2024, it's 23,000. This here is for 2025, which we're in. But if you're doing your taxes right now, you know, that's what you're doing right now. That current year is 23,500. But 2024, the most you could put in was 23,000. Okay. So there's a limit. And so there's nothing you can do about it. And you just you put in as much as you can. And most of my friends who are my age or older, they said, I wish I put more in. Because most of the time we're more like Jumping Jack and all of them. They put in 3,000, 3,600 for their entire life, which we showed, and you can still make $1 million. But you're allowed to put in up to 23,500. You're allowed. I don't know too many people that don't or that do. So it's just, that's a lot of money that comes out of your paycheck that you can't touch till you're 59.5. So if you put that much in there, it's just tough. Okay. Now, there are some distributions allowables. And so what happens is, just so you're aware, all the 401ks coming from corporate America, you can't touch them till you're 59.5. You put it in, nothing you can do. Now you say, well, I've been hospitalized, I've been divorced, or I'm in a hard time. They'll say, okay, we'll let you touch it, but we're going to take 10%. That's my money, not your money. They charge you a 10% penalty. Now on 457s, they'll do one hardship and they'll let you have it as long as you pay it back and you put it on like a monthly payment plan. So yes, it's your money. They know it's your money, but since you've taken it out and you're not using it for retirement purposes, then you got to pay it back in increments and you set that payment plan up. So that's sort of nice to have a 457. They would take it out of your paycheck. Yeah. So if a divorce happens or some medical issue happens or something, and you say, I just need money, I know I have money in my retirement account, can I use it? Then that hardship, they'll let you do it. But once you're back on your feet, they're going to start taking that out of your paycheck. Okay, which is nice. It's a nice little caveat there. Okay. So there's different types of retirement. We have what's called self-managed, which that's what I sort of do. I look at what is happening. I look at the numbers and they send you all the things like, okay, this stock is making 30% and this one's making 32 and this one's making 18. You pick and choose which stocks you want to be in a 401k. A directed one, it's sort of using a financial advisor and they sort of coach you and tell you what to do, and you pay them, say, $100 to coach you. Okay, that's directed. Managed means, here's my money, go ahead and do it for me and make all the money you can. Okay. So a managed account is like you're handing over your money and say, I'm counting on you to make it right. Okay. So you have to figure out, am I doing it myself, or am I being coached or being managed? What a lot of people have done now, on the bottom example, they just put it into an account when they're going to retire. And so what happens is, like, since you have to have 40 years in, okay, and it's 2025, okay, 40 years from now would be 2065, right? So, you would put your money into the 2065 account, okay? And then that way, they'll be aggressive in the front end and slow down on the back end, and they have your money come 2065. And that's how a lot of people are starting to do it, because it makes it easier instead of looking at each stock. They just say, okay, whatever's the best stock out there, instead of looking at each one, just go with, say IBM this year and go with whoever comes out next year, you know what I'm saying? Because there's always new companies coming out. So what they're saying is the withdrawal rate, usually the rule of thumb is 4%. And so if you have $1 million in, you should only take out 40,000 a year. And that would be for 25 years, and then your money's gone. So that's why a lot of people are worried about retiring, because in a 401k corporate environment, whatever you put in and you say, I'm retiring, sort of like my brother, do you have enough money to last you till you die? And we don't know when we're going to die. This is only for 25 years and you're out of money. And once you're out of money, you're going to have to bag groceries or say hello at Walmart or whatever you're going to do. But you'll be in your 80s doing that. And you've seen some people doing that. Okay. But they're out of their 401k and they have nothing else. Where in government, even if I'm in my 80s, I won't run out, because then they have taxpayers pay for the rest of your life, even if I, run out of money. So that's the other thing. And there's other rules, Rule 25, that's talking about the nest egg of, having 25%, taking away 4% annually. Here's some other age-related things I already covered. And so I'm just showing you whether you go with pensions, with the Social Security, with a 401k, you could make more money in retirement than you could actually just, making a 401k. So if you're considering a government job. But that's it, pretty much. Question?